There was a time when things were good on Shady Side. But now,
Are you a fan of this genre movies? And what was the first horror that you saw in your life?
So I actually don't really watch a lot of horror movies. I also don't remember the first horror movie that I ever watched just because I wasn't allowed to watch them. Actually, you know what? I'm just now remembering. I think the first like really gory movie that I ever watched was Zombieland. I think my cousin showed it to me when I was younger. And I guess it's not really horror, but still the first like really bloody, gruesome movie that I ever saw.
Yeah.
Big horror fan. Yeah, I'm like, so I love all horror movies equally. And then I think the first one that I saw was Scream. I saw it maybe too young. But I saw Scream really early and I was like, this movie rules. And then I would try to tell my friends to watch it. My parents were like, don't tell people that you've seen Scream.
Telling people to
And I
watch
was like,
horror
got it.
movies.
Sounds good.
I also love horror films. I mean, Olivia's the number one. But I do enjoy watching horror. The first actual horror film I watched, I would say, was a movie called Thinner.
Oh, the Stephen King movie?
Yeah, Thinner. I was really too young to watch that because I only remember
Thinner was
one
creepy.
specific part, and it was terrifying to me. Yeah, super creepy movie.
Yeah, I think the first horror movie I watched was Jeepers Creepers or Candyman.
Nice.
Yeah, but I didn't like watching them just because they were like too scary and I was just too young.
For me, it was actually like the first thing that affected me, like in the way horror can. It was actually it wasn't a film. It was an episode of The X-Files, and I watched it by accident. I was too young, and it was actually with Giovanni Ribisi and Jack Black, and it was with one. I can't remember which one. One was able to like control electricity, I think, with his mind, and that really. I didn't sleep that much that night. That was
This was yesterday.
Yeah. Just doing some research for this interview yesterday. Found this one episode of The X-Files.
And Julian, for you?
I think it was seeing The Exorcist at a sleepover with some kids from my school and trying to pretend like I wasn't as afraid as I was. That really scared me. And then, having to pretend like, oh no, I'm fine. It didn't affect me at all.
And Daryl?
I think it was the Blair Witch Project. I think I actually still have nightmares about that. It's an incredibly well done. It's a documentary in my opinion. Nobody can tell me it's not a real thing. That really happened.
It will be not spoiler, but I was scared when they killed Bill Murray.
Yeah, for sure.
But are you a fan of this genre? Did you like it? Because this is the main genre that we can see you right now in. Because Stranger Things is also a horror genre, and now Fear Street. So, what drives you to these projects?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like horror is just, it's so like relevant right now. Like people just really, really are drawn to it and they seem to love it. And I love doing them. I just think they're so fun. And I think Fear Street's pretty different from Stranger Things. It's less kind of sci-fi, less and more just like really fast-paced, intense horror that's more inspired by some of the classic horror movies that you see. But yeah, I mean, they're really, really fun to do. But yeah, watching them, I don't really watch a lot of them, but they're really fun to make.
Yeah, but you also play always this character that is very feisty, that doesn't take, sorry for my language, shit from anyone, who's saying like, get out of my way. And you do it with such a glamorous thing. And I'm curious, like, how do you go to this top of your game to be so mad all the time on the set? Because I can imagine, and I see you right now, that you're a very joyful person. How do you stay in such a mad mood all the time?
I mean, I really don't know where it comes from. It's just something I can easily slip in and out of. Depending on the scene and how mad I am, sometimes it takes a little bit more effort. But yeah, it's not in my natural character to say those things, and Ziggy is a very, very aggressive person, which I am not. So it's always fun to kind of be in someone else's shoes and you know, say things you wouldn't normally say, especially with someone like Ziggy who's so intense. But yeah, I don't know what it is, but I like doing roles that are very forward, I guess.
And being involved in this project, what was the main thing that was the hardest for you in playing in a horror movie?
I'd say the most difficult part, but also the most fun part, is just stunt work. It was something that I had never really done a lot of in the past, and something that I had a lot of fun doing on this. Just like working with stunt coordinators and working out all these different fight sequences. That was really fun for me. But then, you know, it also gets challenging and kind of exhausting at times.
So I really didn't watch them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did you see that all of you said one thing? We saw it too early.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, way too early.
Is it something? But is there any proper age for watching horror movies? Actually, it's always, I think, too early for that.
True.
It's a good
Yeah,
point.
it's always scary, no matter what age you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially the first time seeing something like that, having a horror movie experience, no matter what age, I feel like for the first time is always going to be a little jarring and
for sure.
traumatic.
You're gonna have
Yeah.
trouble
Right,
sleeping
so-
tonight.
Yeah.
So how is it on the other side when you're shooting a horror story? Which of these pictures stayed in your mind after that?
Oh, well.
I don't know if I really had. I think for this, it was a thing where like we had like a great stunt crew. And they were the ones that were doing the scares, you know, and being the killers. So it was a thing where we'd be like, "What's up, Noah?" And he'd be like, "Hey, like, what's going on? Like,
Hey.
this happened to me this weekend. Like, did you guys see this movie?" And he'd be like, "Oh," and they'd be like, "Action." And he'd be like, "Okay." And then he'd put like a skull on and then chase us with a knife.
Yeah.
So it was like kind of, you know what I mean? And then he'd take it off and be like, "Haha, wasn't that funny?" And we'd be like, "Yeah, you're great."
Yeah.
But you had also this scene in the store. I think it's a grocery store when head of one of the character was slashed by the bread slasher.
Yeah.
How did it look when you were on the set? Because it looked gruffly when you see it on screen.
You know,
Yeah.
our characters in that scene actually didn't see it while it was happening. Our characters actually, our position in the scene, we kind of heard it happening, but we weren't close enough to see it. So we had to react to it. But I wasn't there when they were actually filming it. But, you know, our visual effects team is so great that it looks crazy, but it obviously was like super safe when we shot it and not like that at all. So that's another thing, filming horror films, we really have to use our imagination and like have an idea of what we think it's going to turn out to be. But somehow in these movies, even the things that happen exceed my expectations of what I expected, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question, because I see our time is getting over. How do you pump yourself to be scared all the time? Because it's not only what we see, there are those reshoots, other angles. How do you stay so scared all the time?
That's a great question.
I don't actually know how. It
Yeah.
just kind of happens. Like when the camera rolls, it just got to do it. So.
And it helps when you're working with actors, and like the actors in our cast that all committed to the circumstances and all took it seriously.
Yeah.
It could be a little uncomfortable if it's only you, but I feel like collectively we all were on the same page. So we kind of fed off each other's energy.
Yeah. And we
So you didn't think about anything scary during those moments?
I feel like the set and everything kind of like allowed us to feel that naturally. I didn't really have to think of anything. We just, you know, filming in the hospital or in the woods, it was kind of creepy on its own.
Yeah. And then there is someone like chasing you with a knife.
Yeah.
And you're like, as
actually
the
is
actor, I
someone.
know this is fake, but also my instincts are telling me
Run.
that I got to get out of here.
Isn't normal.
So it makes you scared. And the horror movie that you picked to play in is about a witch. That says much about you.
You see, Dawid? Yeah, I'm telling you, the witches. I can't escape them.
All right, because I can see that everything that combines everyone that is watching horror is they're saying like, I saw it too young. Is there a time period that you are grown enough to watch a horror movie?
I still get really scared, so I don't know. I end up covering my eyes through a lot of movies.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think if you're still affected by someone dying on screen and blood and stuff, I think that's a good thing. That's a sign of a good upbringing. What a question. When are you old enough to start watching? Wow, I don't know.
Okay, so
the younger you see it, the younger you see it, I think it's better because then you get the scares out of you, and then you build some type of armor. I'm just making this up, but there's something there.
I'm jumping to my last question. Are you a person, you guys, when you watch a horror movie, that is actually screaming on the screen like, "Don't do it! Run faster!" Julian, are you?
I don't know if I'm yelling what I think the characters should do, but I definitely grip the armrests in the theater really hard. I do cover my eyes, like I said, and I have a hard time. Yeah, I still just get really scared, and I think to myself, you know how they made this. You're an actor. You've been in scenes like this. You know it's not real, and somehow it still just really scares me.
And you guys?
I think typically when I watch horror films, there is something that just doesn't affect me about them. And like, if they're just like horror for horror and there's a lot of blood and stuff, and I start to just think about the people making it, I start to think about the set, or I start to think about like who came up with this and why is this their fetish? And like, that's where, so I switch off from what I'm watching and go somewhere else. But these films, this was the first time I watched something, and my arms were above my head, like I was like doing things that I don't normally do, seeing horrible stuff, and because I was invested.
I question everything. I question everything that people do in horror movies. But if they did what I wanted them to do in a horror movie, it'd be 3.5 minutes long. They'd get in the car and they'd drive away.
All right. Thank you very much. Our time is over. I appreciate you. Fingers crossed for the next project. Stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.